My name is Chris Jones, and I have with me today from the Capital Region of Albany, New York, Robert Manasier. He's an entrepreneur in residence for Innovate 518, which is the Capital Region of New York's innovation hotspot, right? Right, Robert? By the way, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Christopher.
Glad you're here.
Appreciate it.
You are hotspot certified. What does that exactly mean?
Hotspot certified is a state program that certain companies get allowed to get tax breaks and added resources. It's kind of the minor leagues of Startup New York. Most people know Startup New York because there was a lot of market push. There's kind of a minor leagues to get the companies some traction and going before they jump into Startup New York.
Gotcha.
So to be certified, you get tax breaks, you get some resources and advisory work from us at Innovate.
You provide mentorship, network resources, and market insertion services. I love that term. For UAlbany, the affiliated faculty, student, alumni ventures, and non-affiliated ventures. And you're also an entrepreneur in residence at UAlbany. Is that the University of Albany? Is that what that means?
University of Albany and at Sage colleges.
Oh, really?
And at Ignite U in Troy. But the hotspot program is for the 8 counties of the Capital Region. It's not just campus specific.
Okay, good.
So,
Good. You're also a CEO for In Focus Brands. What's that about?
that is a company I started a long time ago because after starting a lot of companies and making a lot of mistakes, we came up with a process that we believe works better than any other process. So we get called in to build companies from scratch or to accelerate companies and scale companies to larger heights.
Wow. I have to ask you, you look like you just got a lot of spirit. What got you motivated to do this kind of thing? Did you ever have a regular job sort of thing in the past?
That's a great question, Chris. According to my family, I've never worked. I've never had a regular job. So I guess I haven't.
Okay.
But I did this when I was very young. My first company I started very young with the immature and naive belief that if you own a company, you never answer to anybody, you're the master of your universe. And very quickly, I realized that if you own a business or run a business, you answer to everybody. And at that age, I was a teenager. So I, not just my staff, my clients, I answered to all my staff's family, right? So, but what I found out is I loved it. I loved the servant leadership. And that's always been important to me. It's not the title. It's the people I work with. And I've been very lucky in my career and my life to be surrounded by wonderful people. And it's always about people, right? Business is just people doing good work together when you get it right.
Would you be of the philosophy that the employees don't work for you, you work for them?
Absolutely. And you work for their families and everybody else in the chain, because that's a huge responsibility. And I think sometimes you get blinded by the flash. But the beauty of it is you get to grow up in a certain respect. I've grown up with a lot of my staff, but I get to see that their families grow up. And that's an honor, actually.
That is, I can imagine. How many businesses have you been involved in and started?
Privately, 155.
Wow.
But through Innovate, 518, UAlbany Innovation Center, Sage, and Ignite U, probably 300 or 400. Because we see a lot of companies come into the space, and we try to, the real goal is to help them find a direction and hopefully mitigate some of the problems or mistakes that I've made and other of our resources have made, right? Because we have a lot of advisors, a lot of mentors. You know, we really try to give them good advice. It doesn't always work, right? No business is perfect, but we're trying to be there to help them. And, you know, that's a great way to spend your time helping people.
Yes. Wow. It sounds like you're just living the dream, kind of.
I say that every day.
If you can wake up and do that, your life is good, right?
I'm pretty good. If I wake up, it starts off well. So that's a good start.
Now, you've done some stuff in Europe. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so we've started companies on every continent except Antarctica, and I really want to start one there one day.
Oh, my God.
Before I leave and go somewhere else, you know.
Every country on the planet, you mean?
Every continent. Not, I wish every country, but no, every continent.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Can you explain to me, let's localize it a little bit.
Sure.
The Innovate 518, can you get into the exact detail maybe of what that is? Because that's going to pique my interest. And then we'll talk about Ignite U as well. What value does that provide for people?
So Innovate 518 really focuses on technology and innovation companies. So high scale, high growth. You know, some of the companies we work with are biomedical, fintech. So we try to take the great minds in the area, and not just from campus, right? These are just community members too, and try to accelerate and commercialize whatever they've created in the tech and innovation space.
Mhm.
A lot of patents, a lot of IP. Ignite U deals more with small business America. We still do tech, but we focus on operational businesses. So anybody can use the Ignite U platform to either get operationally efficient, scale, learn a process to get more clients. So, you know, we kind of have both sides of the equation, right? Small business America, which is the backbone, right?
Mhm.
Backbone of this economy. And then the high tech, high growth that we're looking to create future job growth for the college students and high school students coming up through the ranks.
Wow. You've got all the bases covered there then.
I wish I did, but
Well, it sounds like
every
you're on
day's
the
a new
way.
day.
You're on the way for sure. How would one, if I had like I have a small business, I'm a sole proprietor. How would a sole proprietor seek help through, say, Ignite U? How would that process go?
So two ways. You can go through innovate518.com, fill out an application. We have 27 partners across the 8 counties. We will refer you into an organization that could help you. Ignite U is one of them. Small Business Development Center is another, right? So that's the application process.
Right.
And then we refer out to our partners who would suit your needs best. We try to match what's best for you and what you need most.
Okay.
Right. So if you just have an idea and you really need to work through a business plan or at least business model canvas, we'd probably start you at one of the incubators, Center of Gravity, Troy Innovation Garage, Biz Lab, or SBDC, which is Small Business Development Center, that do a great job kind of forming the idea into something tangible that somebody else can work with.
So Innovate 518 is like the top, is where you start, right? Am I getting that right?
It's the umbrella.
Umbrella, yeah.
It's the umbrella.
And then
there is no top, right? We're all trying to work collaboratively. I think when I first came here, because I grew up downstate near New York City,
right.
When I first got up here, there were a lot of redundant programs, and we're just trying to kind of create direction so people don't waste time. Because, you know, the two things we don't have enough of, money and time.
True. I will say, and what's your take on this? The work from home thing that more people are doing now. And we're sitting here on Zoom. If this was a year ago, I'd be driving down to your location in Saratoga, setting up a camera, and we'd be talking. So do you feel that this has saved a lot of time for people? What's your take on that?
I think everybody else living the same thing. We seem to be working way more now. We're never disconnected. I think it's great. I mean, obviously working around the globe, we've been used to working remotely on many projects. You know, thank God the technology caught up to us, because in the old days we would have to fly out. But there is something magical about getting people in a room together. Sure. And at some point, you know, we'll be back there. But I think this is phenomenal. I think it's opened up a lot of doors for business owners and people trying to get clients, because we're all more accessible now.
Wow. Yeah. Everybody's healthy in your family, you were telling me earlier.
Yes, thank God.
That's good to hear.
And yours too. So
yeah, that's good.
Check that box, right?
Check. Tell me more about the focus of In Focus, if you could, and what that exactly does. You told me before, but
yeah. So the guiding principle is we believe in culture and DNA, the DNA of a company, to formulate the brand. But the brand to us is not a logo or messaging. The logo is a process to do everything: how to get staff, how to get clients, how to market, how to run operations, how to run logistics. So we really believe the brand sets the stage for the whole operation of the company. So when you're ready to scale or grow, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
Right? A lot of companies do something, they get to a number of clients, they want to go bigger, and they kind of have to start all over. We try to avoid that. But we really look for the weakest part of a company. I'm not going to come in and tell you what you do great, Chris. I'm going to come in and say, here's the areas that need improvement, and my team will deploy in to work on that. Gotcha. And that's the difference. We don't consult, we actually execute.
Got you there.
Hope that helped.
That's a wow. What would you say? And I hear lots of different definitions on this. What is a brand to you? A brand
is a process. It is the mission and the culture that your company kind of unifies around.
Okay.
We use brand to really set the stage for hiring, because one of the problems with startups and growth companies is bad hires lead to failure.
Mm-hmm.
We try to minimize that by making sure there's a fit before they get in the door. Skill set's one thing, culture fit is another. And I think culture fit or team fit is much more important. I can always teach people what they need, unless it's mission critical and you need it right now, right? But if you have time, and every business owner, manager should be planning for the future, if you know what you're going to need, you can start making sure the fit's right first, and then you can train and develop staff, which creates great retention, right? And I'm a big fan of retention.
Oh, that's just customer service 101, actually, really.
Well, employee 101. I don't want my employees ever to leave any of my companies.
Which is why you work for them, essentially, yes.
Among other things. Yeah.
Among other things. Wow, Robert. When you say, I want to get more into the brand thing, because that's because people are out there on social media, and they're just making posts, and they're startup people, and they don't have a marketer, they're sole proprietor like myself. But I see
we've all started there, Chris.
We've all started there. There's a lot of people that just post, and it seems so random. What would be your advice maybe for social media posting on a startup? I mean, not industry specific, but some general guidelines. How would you handle it?
Yeah, and this is something we really hammer home at Ignite You. If you have a business, you really need to learn who your customer is and who's the right customer for what you do. Right. The fancy term is product market fit. Other terms that you would see is customer discovery. If you have clients, and most companies don't even think of this, ask your clients or incentivize your clients to tell them why they work with you, to tell you the truth though, right? And sometimes as a third party, it's easier to get the truth than if you went knocking on somebody's door that you're a client and you're like, how do you like working with me? They're going to say, great, Chris, we love working with you. That doesn't help. That's an attitude. Yeah. I want a behavior. How do I fit into your life? What do I make better? What can I improve on? If you know who you're speaking to, which is product market fit, you're going to get a better engagement, which is going to lead to more business. You're not always going to get every client. It doesn't always work. Nothing does, right? Yeah. But you're going to get more intel on an ongoing basis, so you can be ready for the next change in the market. Because the only thing we know is the markets are going to change. That's it, right? We can't dictate anything to a market. If I didn't bring any value to you, I wouldn't have you as a client anymore. Right? So as long as I know what you need, I can stay ahead of the curve. I can keep you as a client. And hopefully in that interaction, you start telling other people about how great the relationship is. And it all boils down to relationships. And that's so from a brand, you need to know the pains and how you fit into your clients. Right? And you need to give value. And this is the hard part, because a lot of times what you have in your head, a lot of consultants are like this, right? Really smart people, they know a lot, and they don't want to share any because they want to make sure they get paid for their time. You have to give something away so people can gravitate towards you.
Well, I've heard the idea that, especially on LinkedIn, where you give, and there's like 15 or 20 gives before there's a get, or more even. And it's just like, if you give enough value away, such as the kind of things that you're saying, you could put those in a social media post, and you could provide value, and you get engagement and all of that. Oh, well, he's the guy that does this. I need that service. And that's that kind of a thing for social media.
Yeah, at a certain point, though, you have to stop and draw the line, right? Because people will try to just keep getting more from you in conversations and meetings. And we teach all of our clients to have a process. There's nothing wrong with an introductory meeting and a follow-up to correct misconceptions and points of view and maybe things we didn't educate them on enough. But at some point it has to stop, and then there has to be a paying transaction, right? Because if you're not getting paid, you're not running a business.
That's true.
Right? And I don't always like free. I don't think people value free all the time. Mm-hmm. We want to hold our clients as accountable to what we are working with as they hold us accountable. And that goes for anybody, right? It's a relationship, so you're holding each other accountable when it works well.
The only free part would be in the beginning where you're talking, and at some point you have to draw the line and do that for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's amazing. You're on social media yourself now as a person. You're on social media. You're on LinkedIn, right? And
That's about it.
that's how people would get a hold of you if they wanted to ask a
Yep, on
question.
LinkedIn. It's the only channel I really, because that's who I deal with, business owners and leaders, and
Hmm.
so that's my market. So product market fit. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm on Snapchat because I'm way too old.
How about TikTok?
TikTok. Well, I'm thinking about that, but
You should. I got on there. I got some following on there.
you did.
Actually,
Did it turn to clients?
no,
Yeah,
I don't do a lot. I don't do a lot. I do it just for the thing.
yeah, and that's the other thing that people have to get used to is measuring the results. Activity is great, but activity without results doesn't get you anywhere either. So
That's true. I mean, you can do the same thing over and over again and get a lot of following and have 50,000 followers on some social media platform. But if none of them are clients and they're all kids or whatever, yeah, what good is that? I suppose, unless they tell their parents, I suppose. I don't know.
that's a tough conversion.
It would be, sure. Now, one of the things I'm reading, and it's on your LinkedIn profile, and I want you to analyze this phrase. And it
Ooh.
says, you handle the building and commercialization of businesses, brands, technology, and teams, right? That about sums it up, right?
I think so.
You
Kind of
wrote
keep
it.
me honest, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
commercialization is the key piece, right?
Yeah, that's it.
If you can't build revenue, then it's probably not worth doing.
No.
And that goes for anybody, our own businesses, the businesses we're helping.
How involved? It sounds like you're a lot of hands-on. Are you hands-on in all of these or most of these businesses?
I try to be. I like being in the weeds and in the trenches. You learn more, right? So we're all detectives and observers, right? And if you come in with the philosophy that the market leads, we constantly have to be paying attention. So it's much easier on the ground level at times. Sometimes you have to pull back and rethink. But if you don't know the details of a business, you're not doing it justice, I think.
No, you got to get right down in there and get into it for sure. Well, this is very good advice. And we are providing, I think, value for people today because there's a lot of people that have jobs out there and they hate getting up and going to work every morning. They just don't want to get up. The alarm goes off at 5 or whatever, and they get up and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go do this today. But they have an idea in their head and they want to get something going, but they need some way to start. Now with me, it was different. I'll be straightforward, transparent. I was let go from a car dealership. I sold cars. It was a friendly parting and it was a good thing. The next day I woke up and revamped my website because I do that too. And I said, bang, off we go. Chris Jones Media, and we're doing, voiceover and social media stuff. But for somebody who is struggling a little with that, do you have some advice for that?
Yeah. So in the Stone Ages, when I started my first companies, there were no real resources. There are so many resources where they can test out the idea, have other people give input. And we named them all, right? And you can find them all at innovate518.com. There's a whole list where people will take the time to at least hear out your idea. So that's step one. But the other part is everybody can't be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I teach entrepreneurship classes at college and university, and we're teaching a process of viewing, of perspective, but everybody doesn't have that risk-taking entrepreneurship. So what I tell people who aren't risk takers, if you really care about this idea, find someone else to team with, right? Because that's the part of a team. A team isn't everybody does the same thing. We all have skill sets.
Right.
Maybe if you find a kind of a higher risk personality, the balance will keep you safer longer because there's a compromise there. I think, but the free resources are where you should go first, just to get a sense. And people will tell you, it already exists. Have you looked at this? They'll give you some things to look at before you make the big leap. I always tell people, do not leave your job to start your company.
Yeah.
And I know that's almost the exact opposite, but if you don't have money coming in, all you're thinking about is, how do I feed myself? How do I pay my rent? How do I feed my family? It goes on and on. You're not thinking clearly enough.
No, you wouldn't be. Yeah. Because you're all you're worried about is, like you say, income. And
everybody's, COVID obviously is life shattering for many people, but good businesses can get through this.
Yes.
And it's your outlook, right? When everybody else was cutting marketing budget, we were increasing. we were pushing more on the business development, knowing we wouldn't make sales because nobody's going to start spending money, but getting in front of more people sooner.
Well, that's the marketing aspect of it.
Yes.
And a lot of that would involve being ever present, as I say, on social media for one thing, and just getting out there and making, like, reaching out and touching your customer, you know, in a virtual sense, just talking to them
and going back to your existing customers and talk to them about how you can help.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, and you're doing it for altruistic purposes, right? Because you want them to remain clients too,
sure,
but also to show concern, like real concern, and people know when you're full of.
Yeah.
I'll try to be good, Chris.
Because there were a lot of companies that panicked, and I hear about this all the time, that, let's dig out the old email list and start sending stuff out after 10 years of not talking to somebody. It's like, okay, now you're desperate, aren't you? Just like delete that email or delete that letter. It's all about maintaining great customer service, and good companies know what that's about. And I'm sure that's part of what you teach too. Yeah.
And it's been a great opportunity to get closer to staff because everyone is afraid. Yeah. I don't care who you are. This is the unknown. There are so many voices. Mm-hmm. Social media hasn't helped. The news hasn't helped.
You're right.
It's a great time to kind of just get back to basics with your own teams, mm-hmm. right? You know, they're people. We're all people. At the end of the day, the relationship between people.
Yeah.
You know, and they know they can rely on each other. I always say to my teams, we don't fail if we work as a team, which doesn't mean we can't get it wrong and make mistakes, but we'll never completely fail.
Right. So within the organizations, within Innovate 518 and Ignite You and the rest, you must get some employees in there once in a while, or people that work with you that say, I have a great idea. I'd like to do something. I mean, somebody you're already working with. And has that happened? Have you seen that happen within your sphere of influence?
All the time. There are so many entrepreneurs and business owners that come to us with one idea, and over time it's pivoted to a completely different industry or a nuance to the idea or a different market. We spent a lot of time early on trying to figure out the market fit to start the company, right? Because you said market insertion before. It's really hard to break in. But if you know exactly who you're reaching out to and why you're reaching out to them, it's a little easier, right? You can get their attention by talking about their life, by their behaviors, by what drives them every day, not what you're trying to do.
Right. Robert, I think we're going to wrap this up.
Thank you, Chris.
I would love to, at some point, talk again if you'd be willing.
Of course.
And maybe
you'll have me.
Okay. Maybe we can dive in depth into one of these companies and dive down deep into a process and something that might provide value for somebody who's thinking about doing it. I mean, get a little in depth on that.
That'd be awesome. Even if we brought a small business owner on.
That'd be awesome too.
Or an idea entrepreneur and talk through what they think they're doing versus a process and steps to get to a decision. Because at some point you have to say go or no go, right?
Yeah, you do.
Am I going to pull the trigger or not?
I would love to do that. We'll coordinate that.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris.
I got a couple of questions for you that aren't business related.
Oh boy, I'll get these wrong.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie? Oh, I have a lot of them. You want to give me a suggestion?
Like
favorite
science fiction,
movie,
action?
Might be a really old one I used to watch with my grandmother, The Quiet Man with John Wayne.
John Wayne. Can't go wrong with that. That's awesome. And here's something that I think speaks to character, because I got asked this myself a few times. If time was not a factor, if you had a time machine, who would you like to go back and have coffee with or have a conversation with? Anybody, anywhere, anytime.
There's so many.
One or two, or if you got.
Well, Jesus would be one, just to see the person versus the story.
Right.
But Thomas Jefferson, Abe Lincoln, but probably the one that just popped in my head because of the times we're living in and because we live in this virtual world that everybody's complaining about is probably something you've never heard before, but Genghis Khan.
Wow.
He took over the world when he was on a horse. So he is probably one of the greatest remote leaders I could ever think of. And I would love to see how he did it, but if I sat down and had coffee with him, he'd probably murder me. So I don't know if that's a great idea, but you know, if I could be safe.
Okay. Robert, this was a lot of fun. I really
likewise, Chris.
All right. We'll talk again. Live long and prosper. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, is your name? How do you say your name? Manasier?
Manasier. You got it, Chris.
Right? So I got
Yeah, good
Combs. It's
job.
real easy.
I've been called a lot worse.
I'll bet you have.
Thanks.
Well, you're the kind of guy I think I could say that to.
You can. It's all good.